Because we've sort of come to this weird conclusion that if my life is good, I don't deserve compassion. And if my life is bad, I don't have to give compassion to others. And both sides of that coin are incredibly toxic and incredibly harmful. Welcome in, everybody. Today, the Tech Talk is about gatekeeping. And specifically gatekeeping within the LGBT community. So the first thing that I want to just get out of the way right now is that I am part of the LGBT community. So I identify as hetero-flexible, which means that for the most part, I like women and I'm attracted to women, and I don't really like men, and I think that men have a lot of gender healing to do. But there are certain sexual aspects about men that I find very appealing. So this is not someone from outside the LGBT community passing judgment on the LGBT community. This is someone within the LGBT community talking about a subject that personally affects me as a member of the LGBT community. Okay? And I'm talking about this because I see this issue that I'm going to be talking about cropping up again, sort of all over the Twitch sphere, and every time it pops up, it really hurts my heart. I really feel it in my chest. My chest gets tight every time I see this, and so it's something that's really important to me to talk about. So that being said, I'm going to sort of get into the thrust of the talk now, which is that the Buddha said that we are all entitled to two things, and those two things are death and suffering. And that sounds really bleak on the surface of it. But when you really think about it, there's this interesting phenomenon that has started going on where people have started saying, I'm not allowed to suffer because other people have it worse than me. You see this all the time where people will be talking about their problems and then they will try to discount their problems by saying oh, but I don't want to make too big of a deal out of it because I know that, other people have it way worse. And so what we've essentially started doing is we've started gatekeeping suffering. We're saying I'm not allowed to suffer because other people have it worse. And that is a really, really dangerous and harmful habit that we're getting into. And sort of what the, if this talk has a moral of the story, the moral of the story is to get away from that concept and that idea, because it's super harmful. Because we've sort of come to this weird conclusion that if my life is good, I don't deserve compassion, and if my life is bad, I don't have to give compassion to others. And both sides of that coin are incredibly toxic and incredibly harmful. And so the same thing is happening right now in the LGBT community, specifically with the LGBT tag. Now, I see this argument a lot from the LGBT community in general. This idea that if you're not one of us, you can't contribute to our narrative. If you're not one of us, you can't participate in conversations with us. It's your job to sit down, shut up, and listen, and that's it. And so again, we come back to this idea of gatekeeping. They are gatekeeping the conversation to just the LGBT community. It's my suffering. You can't participate in it because it's mine. And so the truth is that oppression is oppression, and it may take different skins, it may take different forms, but we all suffer with it. And so comparing suffering is a waste of time. It's a complete waste of time. And instead, we should work to be more compassionate overall. People who have it worse should, they deserve compassion and should also be compassionate to others. And people who have it better have a responsibility to be compassionate to those who have it worse, but also deserve compassion themselves. And what's really scary when you start to think about this is that gatekeeping is exactly what the people that we are fighting against are doing. That they say things like, this is our marriage between a man and a woman, you don't belong in it. And now we're doing the exact same thing within the LGBT community. We're fighting fire with fire. We're fighting their prejudice and their discrimination with our own. And so, like, I get it. Like, people are suffering and people feel unsafe. But the thing is that the people that I usually see expressing this sentiment of, like, making, like, this huge deal about the LGBT tag are usually privileged white people that are already out. Like, it's not people who are, like, severely marginalized and suffering like crazy and being attacked as an LGBT person, because the truth is that most of the time when I see those people want all the allies that they can get, because they are in desperate need of help. And, like, I do think that it is our responsibility to provide them help. And allies are a part of that help. Now, let's talk about acknowledging that some people do, you know, like, some people are suffering and some people do feel unsafe and are not in a place where it should be their job. It should never be their job to, like, participate in conversations that make them feel unsafe or uncomfortable. And that's totally fine. You don't have to. What I think is important here is the way that you go about doing it. So instead of saying, like, you can't talk about this because you're not part of the community, saying things like, I feel really uncomfortable having this conversation with you, or, like, I feel triggered having this conversation, those are, like, completely legitimate, valid, and like, safe things to say. Because in saying that, you're acknowledging where you're at and setting a boundary for yourself without shutting down the conversation. When you say, like, you just have to listen, you can't participate, not only do you shut down the conversation, but you make the people that you say that sort of thing to less likely to listen in the future because they've had that bad experience. Like, it's like when I went vegan, I immediately had all sorts of feedback from people that they're like, oh, I hate vegans. Like, you must be one of the good ones, because I hate vegan. Every vegan I've ever met is just like a complete douchebag, right? Because there's this expression from a lot of vegans who are really passionate about what they do, that, like, if you're not vegan, you're trash, right? Like, you can't participate in this conversation because you're not vegan, right? And so, again, it's this, like, gatekeeping mentality that actually harms your cause. Like, if we want to normalize the LGBT community, if we want to, like, have you know, a man kissing a man be just as normal as a woman kissing a man, we need people to want to listen and want to understand and want to participate in this discourse. And again, for the people that feel unsafe and the people who feel marginalized, it is not your responsibility to do that. But I do think that it is always our responsibility to try to communicate as effectively as possible. And you can't always do that when you feel unsafe and when you feel triggered, and I get that. But I think that talking about it and bringing awareness to it, I think that a lot of the people who are expressing this idea are not the people who feel unsafe and the people who feel marginalized. I think that they're social justice warriors who think that they are, like, standing up for a cause instead of just, like, participating in the discourse. The other really important part about this, and this is a new concept, like, I've talked about this before. There's an article that I wrote about this, which is !LGBT, and I'll put the link down in the description for anyone who's watching this talk on YouTube. That article has some sort of, like, outdated ideas at this point. But it's, you know, most of the ideas are still good and still sort of explain a lot of what I'm talking about. But there's a new concept that was introduced to me recently, which is that allyship is often a stepping stone to queerness. And when I heard this, I realized that not only are we sort of, like, alienating allies, but we also are potentially, like, shaming people that are actually of our community that just aren't ready to come out. So, like, the exact argument against using the LGBT tag on Twitch is actually, which is, like, You know, it should be a safe space for people who are in the LGBT community, and it shouldn't just be like allies. Like, I want to find like-minded people. You're actually alienating like-minded people that don't feel safe coming out yet. And the person that I learned this from expressed this in a really, like, beautiful, heartfelt way, and I don't think that I can express it as well. So I actually want to play the video for you. It's a video that I found on Twitter. I actually want to play the video for you because I think that she explains it better than I ever could, and I think that I wanna put that out into the world. I wanna like get her message out. So her name on Twitter is Rhymes, okay? And I'm just gonna play this video for y'all, okay?
My biggest thing with the LGBTQIA plus tag and allies using it, someone made a tweet where they themselves took it upon themselves to go through the LGBTQIA tag and go into 50 streamers' chats and ask them why they were in the LGBTQIA plus tag. Does that sound wrong to anyone else? Because that sounded really wrong to me, but I saw a lot of my friends applaud this person. It's every 6 months that we talk about this. Allies should not use the tag, and I agree. If you are a tried and true ally, maybe a tag for a marginalized community is not for you. Now, I used the LGBTQIA plus tag before I came out to anyone. I feel like the ally to queer person pipeline is a thing. I've experienced it myself. If someone came into my chat when I was using the LGBTQIA tag and I had not yet officially come out to my community as a queer person, I would have felt really uncomfortable. I understand that they were trying to prove a point, but if you come into a streamer's chat, they're not going to know you're trying to prove a point. I have people who come in here every day and insinuate that I am trans, or ask if I am trans, or ask if I am a man. This is the troll's new winning troll post in an LGBTQIA plus streamers chat. Because if you are trans, they're calling you out for not passing. And if you're not trans, it's an insult, I guess? I don't know. So literally the troll wins, you can't win, whatever. How am I supposed to know the difference between a person who comes in good faith and is quizzing me on my presence in the LGBTQIA community versus a troll that comes in? A person comes into my chat and is like, so why are you in the LGBTQIA plus tag? Feels oddly similar to the people who come in and ask me what LGBTQIA plus means, trying to get me to trip up, no matter their intentions, no matter if they're trying to prove a point on Twitter for clout or what have you. I don't like it. We should not be policing the tag and trying to weed out the allies, because what if someone is not comfortable in their sexuality enough yet, but they do feel a part of the community? It's just to try to educate one. You just shouldn't be doing that to people. We can post on Twitter all we want to try to educate people, but the small amount of allies who are using the tag on Twitch, the LGBTQIA plus tag, and maybe they don't know any better, they're not on Twitter, they're not seeing your tweet. Like, how much of this is performative? I want to speak out on important topics, but how many people that are following me or who are going to see my tweet if it gets retweeted are allies who are using the tag in good faith because they really just want to provide a safe space when they should be doing that all along? So I think a lot of us, while it's important to share with your community what you're about, what your values are, what your morals are, what you hold important, especially on divisive topics, is important. It's important, don't get me wrong. But how many times are we just screaming into the void to be a part of a conversation when it comes around every 6 months on stream or Twitter? Don't gatekeep that shit because you don't know. Exactly. You don't know if someone's out. Maybe they feel comfortable using the LGBTQIA plus tag, but they don't feel comfortable. They haven't found where they fit in yet. So I don't know. The fact, whenever this conversation comes up, as a queer person myself, the fact that apparently there are people out there policing a tag meant for a marginalized group, that really rubs me the wrong way. So whenever this conversation gets brought up, I don't get involved on Twitter, but as a person who has a lived experience in this, I don't know, I just don't think we should be policing it.
So, what's really interesting about this to me is that, like, we actually don't agree, me and her. Like, she thinks that, like, tried and true allies shouldn't use the tag. And I actually disagree. What's interesting is that she is still echoing the same sentiment. This sentiment that if somebody is uncomfortable, like, with where they're at in their sexuality and they're not comfortable actually, like, coming out and saying it yet, and we are attacking allies for using this tag on Twitch, then we are actively attacking members of the LGBTQIA community that just don't feel safe yet. And isn't the whole idea of this to try to make people feel as safe as possible? So this begs the next question, which is that if people are fighting for your cause, why alienate them? So, like, a great example of this is that there are, like, shops that are, like, black-made products, like products that are made by black people, and, like, it helps to, like, give black people jobs, and it like, it's a source of pride, and it's as if a white person walked into a black-made shop to try to support that shop, to try to, like, buy black-made products to support black people. And the owners of that shop were like, no, dude, sorry, you can't shop here. Like, why? He's trying to support your cause, or she's trying to support your cause. Why would you alienate someone who is trying to fight for you? Why would you try to make a delineation between the people that are trying to fight for you and the people that are actively struggling? It doesn't make any sense to me, because you're not just creating a separation, you're actually, like, kicking them out of the community. And if we don't let people express their thoughts and ask questions and shut them down, how are they ever supposed to learn? Like, imagine in a classroom setting, if we didn't let students ask questions and we didn't let students participate in conversations with the teacher when they didn't understand something. Like, it'd just be a horrible education model, right? The same is true with this. Like, if I think that education is a hugely important part of normalizing the LGBTQI, the queer community. And so if we are just shutting down the conversation and just expecting people to shut up and listen to the lecture, people are going to fall asleep just like they do in the lecture hall. And again, it does not have to be your responsibility to educate them, but don't work to actively shut them down. Now, beyond all of this, beyond all this sort of, like, esoteric philosophical reasoning, there's also just some, like, very, very basic reasons. Like, some logical reasons why this doesn't make sense. The first one is that when Twitch first released the tag, they released it with ally as part of the description. Like something for the LGBT community and allies to use. Now they've taken that away, and the only reason that they have taken that away is because all of this outcry from the LGBT community about how wrong it is. And to me, that's a loss. To me, like, we won in alienating people who wanted to support us. The next reason is just from a numbers perspective, it doesn't make any sense, because we know that there are people that use the LGBT tag in order to troll people. Right? So, like, you lure people in with the LGBT tag, and then you, like, roast them or whatever. Like, it's this horrible bigoted thing to do, right? So if we know that the trolls aren't going to stop from us saying, like, allies shouldn't use the tag, the trolls are going to keep doing this, right? And so the only people that we are potentially going to stop from using the tag are people who really do want to do the best thing for the LGBT community. And what that does is it increases the likelihood that you will run into one of those trolls when you go into a stream. Because if you have a set number of people in the LGBT tag and you take away a portion of the good, you're left with more likelihood to hit the bad. Like, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And finally, the last and final point that I'll make here is that there's no such thing as straight people. And I know that this is, like, super controversial, but I think that the truth is that sexuality is a spectrum, and we sort of think of it as slots, but in reality, we're all sort of somewhere on the spectrum. And just like any spectrum, I don't think that there's really anyone who is like all the way white or like all the way black, not racially, just in terms of like the colors on the spectrum. I like every time you are a man and you jack off, like you're giving a man a hand job. Every time you watch porn and there's a man having sex with a woman, you're watching a man have sex with a woman. Like as a man, there's a little tiny bit of like enjoyment that you get out of seeing like the cock go into the vagina. Like that the fact that you're enjoying a cock going into a vagina means that, like, you know, you may be very, very straight. You may never want to do anything with a man as a man. And there's still some, you know, sexual enjoyment that you're getting out of watching a man have sex. So that's my talk. And I don't think that it's right to alienate allies from the LGBT tag. So I hope you enjoyed the talk. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do like subscribe and give the video a like. I really want to get this message out there. I think that it's a really important message. If you're here in Twitch chat, please, like, any thoughts that you have, I'm going to run back through chat and all of the stuff that happened while I was away. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. I disagree with her that allies shouldn't use the tag. I see the tag the same way I see pride flags at businesses. The tag/flag identifies a safe space to be queer. I do think that there is a legit argument about like businesses that just use the tag to like for like, you know, saving face, you know, and don't actually support anything. Like Apple Fitness has been doing this thing recently where they're like celebrating Pride Month, right? And so, like, the last workout that I did, they had this, like, thing that they did where we did, like, 6 exercises, and we did each exercise 3 times. And the idea was that each exercise was a part of the rainbow. So, like, it started with purple, then went to blue, then went to green, then went to yellow, then went to orange, and then went to red. And then finally you did the whole rainbow. You did one of each exercise, right? To finish off the workout. And, like, on the one hand, I think that that's cool. Like, it's sort of like bringing awareness to, like, you know, Pride Month and everything. And on the other hand, like, is it appropriating like queer culture? I don't know. I do think one thing that did really bother me was when Apple was celebrating like Asian History Month. And I was like, Apple, you use like slave labor in your factories, like that is nothing but Asians. Like, you should not be trying to like stand up for heckin' Asian History Month. It doesn't make any sense. It's totally hypocritical. I'm an ally, true and through. I've used the tag back when it had ally with the tag. I still use it. I explained to trolls and the ones that police me that I will always use this tag. I have friends and family I support, so I want to make sure that on the off chance someone within my chat decides to just come out with it, I want them to know it's a safe place, and that no one will say anything negative about it without consequences. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes, Bloodshade Sid, thank you. My goodness. Like, here's someone who is like, who really cares about the queer community and is really trying to do something to provide a safe space for the queer community, and like is being alienated by the entire Twitch community. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, and people are like, oh, you should just be an ally. Like, you shouldn't have to wear a tag. Well, if that's true, then you should just be gay and you shouldn't have to wear a tag. Like, yes, it would be nice if we didn't have to publicly announce this. It would be nice if this could just be a normal part of life, but that's not reality. Stop living in some fantasy where this is already normalized, because it's not, and that's what we're fighting for. So why are we alienating the people that are fighting for it? It doesn't make any sense to me.